Hi everybody, it's Andy from ProgAxia. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the top 21 albums, studio albums of Yes. Now this is something which I've been putting off for a long time, only because it's really difficult to rank these albums. So I'm going to go from 21 to number one, that I think is the best, from the worst. And let's see how it goes, because I'm going to get very confused in all this. Over the time that I've been doing this, I've been looking at doing this for a few years now, and it's just getting the time to actually go back over all the albums and really have a listen to them. I mean, properly have a listen to them and see what they sound like, see where they fit into the hierarchy of albums. The first lot I'm going to go through pretty quickly, because for the last sort of 15-20 years, I'm not really been massively into buying new Yes albums. I don't have a lot of them on vinyl. I've got most of them on CDs, but I've never really sort of got into them. They sort of disappointed. I mean, the bottom line is that Yes, for me, were always, an incredibly dangerous band to listen to. That's what it felt like when I was younger. It was almost like they were just about to fall off the precipice, but they never made it. They never actually fell. They just carried on in this sublime, beautiful movements of music that you get lost in. And the problem that I find with a lot of the newer Yes stuff, for me, is a little pedestrian. So I'm not really going to go into a lot of them, but I did listen to them all again, and it took me over 2 weekends to just sit down with headphones and actually appraise them and listen to them and think about what I was listening to. So I'm going to go through them pretty quickly, the first lot pretty quickly. The rest we'll talk about a little bit more, but the very first one, number 21, is Heaven and Earth. This came out in 2014. And the problem that I have with this album specifically is I think it's the worst album out of all the Yes albums that came out, the studio albums. Now, don't forget, this is all subjective. This is just me. I've been a big fan of Yes since the mid-70s. So that's where I come from. If you come in at a later stage in Yes, then, your favourite album could be Drama. It could be Heaven and Earth. But for me, coming from where I am, this just feels like the worst album. It's so pedestrian. It's like there's no imagination, there's no drive in it, but the musician's good. The musicianship is good. Get my words out. The thing, music's okay. But it's just pedestrian. It just doesn't go anywhere. It's not exciting. It doesn't feel like it's got any drive. So I'm putting that right at the end, and I thought I'd have to sort of make that statement about why I feel that way. Okay. Number 20 is going to come in with Fly From Here, and there's two versions of this. There's the 2011 version and the 2018 version. 2018 version is with Trevor Horn doing the vocals. The 2011 version is with Benoit David doing the vocals. I prefer David's vocals much more than Trevor Horn's vocals on this, although I still think it's a pretty pedestrian album. Again, it feels like it's going through the motions. In fact, there's a 20-minute track on this which it needn't be. I don't think the theme's good. I don't think the concepts and the ideas are that good. But they did it, so we've got that. So that's number 20. Number 19 is The Ladder. Now, this has obviously got Jon Anderson on it, and I love Jon Anderson's voice. And Chris Squire and Alan White, it's all there, but I don't like it. I don't think this is a great album. 1999, there wasn't amazing albums. There wasn't that many amazing albums in 1999, so it's not one of my favourites. It's getting to sound a little bit more like Yes used to, but to be honest, it's just not a great album. So The Ladder's coming in at number 19. Number 18 is Open Up Your Eyes, and it again suffers from the same sort of thing. So I'm not going to go through all these in too much detail, but a lot of it's like 4/4. It's just, again, there's no real imagination, and there's no virtuosity really on these. There's good musicianship, but there's no sort of surprising virtuosity. So yeah, so number 18, Open Up Your Eyes. Then it comes to Talk. This is from 1994. Again, Jon Anderson vocals. This is Trevor Rabin era, which I've never really liked in Yes, although we did have Tony Kaye playing on this as well. And I do like Tony Kaye. I like Tony Kaye's keyboards, especially on the very early stuff. I think it was absolutely fantastic. So we've got this, but it sounds very AOR to me, and I think this is the Trevor Rabin influence. There's a 16-minute track on here in the stream, which I think is, well, it's 16 minutes. Again, musicianship's fantastic, but anyway, so that's Talk. Number 16, we have The Quest. Jon Davison vocals, and first I heard this, we got the Ice Bridge, which I quite liked. I quite liked the Ice Bridge, and I think on this album, Jon Davison had sort of got the vocals. He got like, this is what Jon Anderson sings like. And there's another little problem for me. It's like, why is it Yes if Jon Anderson's not there? Because if Jon Anderson's not singing, the voice of Yes doesn't feel like a Yes album. Although, as I say, on The Quest, I think Jon Davison did a fantastic job to sound a lot like the vocals of Jon Anderson, which sort of squeezes it back into like a Yes album as such. And the music's not bad on this. It's not mind-blowing, but it's not bad. And so I think, it deserves a 16. Next one's going to be contentious with a lot of people because when this first came out, there was a lot of people who said, Yes are back, it's fantastic. You've got to listen to this. There's brilliant songs on this. And this one is Mirror to the Sky. And I've got this in at number 15. This came out in 2023, came out last year. And as I say, there's a lot of people who had a lot of good things to say about this. Now, a lot of praise from critics, a lot of praise from people who are Yes fans. And there's some nice tunes on there. But it's just a shadow of what Yes could be. I don't really know what to say about this. It was disappointing when it came out for me. I actually bought the vinyl of that, which I've got somewhere, and I sort of succumbed to what I heard about it. And I listened to a couple of tracks and I thought, I'll probably get into that. That sounds quite good. Maybe Yes are back. But again, it's Jon Davison vocals, and it sounds great. It sounds like a good album, but to me, it's not dangerous enough. It's not Yes enough. And then we come down to 14. And 14, I've put in 90125. 90125. The reason I put this up I consider pretty high in this, is it was a very, very different album. You've got to remember, this is 83, I think. Or 83, I think this came out. Well, let's have a look. Yeah, I think this was 83. I can't see it. The writing's far too small on this. But it was a really good album. It wasn't like Yes, grandiose. It was a very, very different album. Again, Trevor Rabin. As I say, I'm not a lover of Trevor Rabin in Yes. I think he sort of diverted the sound. I think, Steve Howe's guitar is the sound of Yes, is the musical sound of Yes. But Alan White, Tony Kaye, Chris Squire, and Jon Anderson in there. But what we've got here is a bunch of tracks which are really, really good. I mean, they are really good album-orientated rock tracks. Owner of a Lonely Heart, Hold On, Can It Happen, Changes, Cinema, Leave It, which was on the radio a lot, City of Love, and it was a good album. It worked well. Not my favourite type of Yes sound. It's not Yes, but it's not bad. So it's a very good album, but it's not really what I would consider 100% Yes. So That's at number 14. At number 13, we've got Big Generator, and I've got that somewhere here as well. Oh, I can't find it. I've got so many albums here. So we've got Big Generator. 1987 came out. And again, Jon Anderson on vocals. The album's okay. I think it's slightly better than 90125. But it's very album-orientated rock again. But it's got some great songs on there again. You know, Rhythm of Love, Shoot High, Aim Low, Love Will Find a Way. All those songs are really, really, really good songs. Really good pop songs, really. So when I'm looking at this, it's not just the yes sound I'm trying to listen for. I'm trying to rank these as, you know, how good were these albums? And when 90125 and Big Generator come out, I didn't really like it as yes, but I liked it as records. I thought they were very, very well done records. They were, you know, well produced. The playing on them is fantastic, and they got some success outside of the prog genre, outside of the you know, people who love prog music. Suddenly they became a band that most people knew about, and so just from that perspective, I think those albums deserve to be quite high up in the ranking, if that makes sense. So number 14, 90125, and number 13, Big Generator. At number 12 is Union. And again, I'm going to get some flack for this because I know quite a few of my friends who are into Yes think Union's a great album. But it's not really classic Yes. It's a decent album. It's bringing all the guys from all different periods into one lump, so to speak. So we've got Jon Anderson, Trevor Rabin, Steve Howe, Chris Squire's on there, Rick Wakeman's on there, Tony Kate, Big Bruford, and Alan White, of course. And it's overall it's listenable. You know, it's better than the stuff that I've already spoken about. I don't think it's a better album musically than seeing things like Big Generator and 90125. However, it's more Yes for me. Just it's a better album in my mind because it's proper Yes. But again, it sounds like an Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe album. It doesn't sound like a Yes album. It sounds more like that ABWH. Try and get it right. It sounds like a Trevor Rabin influenced album. There's not a lot of Chris Squire. There's not a lot of Bill Bruford. It's just drums. You know, very, very good drums, but you know, it's nothing really stands out as. You've got all these fantastic musicians, and nothing really stands out hugely. The songs are okay, but it's very AOR. So that came in at number 12. At number 11, we have, and then we're going to get into the top 10 and more interesting stuff. We're going to have Magnification, 2001. Again, Jon Anderson singing, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Alan White. No keyboards on this, of course. This is the one where they brought in an orchestra to do all the orchestrations, where the keyboards would have been. You got orchestration, which I think is a little over the top sometimes. You know, it's nice to have some orchestration in the background, and some keys to sort of take that keyboard position, so to speak. But to be honest, it's okay again as an album, and it's number 11 in my top 21. So it's a pretty good album, and it's listenable, and I quite enjoy some of the tracks on it. I think they're pretty good. So Magnification, number 11, and then we're going to get into the top 10. And we're going to start off with Drama in number 10. Now, the reason why I put Drama in at number 10 is because there are some good songs on this. And one of my favourite Yes tracks that I really do love is Tempest Fugit. I think the bass line on it is mind-blowing. And they've got some good songs, you know, Into the Lens, Machine Messiah, White Car, Does It Really Happen, and things like that. There were some good tracks on there, but not. It was when it actually came out. It was pretty disappointing for me. Wasn't really what I wanted to hear, and I never really got the idea of Buggles in Yes, but that's just me. But Drama, again, it's a bit like the sort of 90125s and the Big Generators of this world. It's a good album, there's some good tracks on it, so deservedly goes into the number 10 slot. Right, number 9, Yes. And I don't have that at all. I used to. The only thing I have got is this, which is Yesterday's, which has got a lot of the tracks off it. I bought this so long ago. Probably, I don't know. I bought it years and years ago, but it's basically the same sort of stuff. And for me, this is great nostalgia. The Yes album, not the Yes album, but Yes, which came out in '69. It's very much a '60s sort of album. But it's like they start to get in their eye in. They start getting to you start hearing the Yes sound, but it's also tinged with that leftover '60s vibe, that psychedelic '60s vibe. And there's some really good songs. I mean, Looking Around and those sort of tracks. I really, 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 really liked it. And the combination of Peter Banks and Tony Kaye was just magical on this. And so it is about being a magical album, and an album that very much influenced me in the '70s, like in the early '70s when I heard this. Again, it was from a friend, one of my friend's brothers, who was a few years older than me, had all these albums, and they were incredible. Some of the stuff that he was playing, and when I heard this, I loved it. And then when I started getting into buying albums, I bought it. But right from the first track, you can hear that Chris Squire is not just going to be a bass player that sits in the background. He's going to be a bass player that you actually hear on the albums, and you can hear it right from this very first album. So I've got a lot of love for this. There's some great guitar playing on this from Pete Banks, and some great keyboards from Tony Kaye as well. I mean, some beautiful stuff. So that's what I've got at number 9. At number 8, I have Tormato. This was an album, and I believe this came out just after Going for the One. And I went on this tour. I went on this Tormato tour, and this is the inner sleeve of it. And for a long time, I thought they're moving away from what I love. They're moving away from being Yes. But recently, I've gone back to this album, and there are some amazing tracks on this. I mean, Release is probably the best track on this. But you've got Future Times and Rejoice and all that sort of stuff. But you've also got things like Circus of Heaven, which at the time I really didn't like. You had Arriving UFO and then Circus of Heaven, and I really didn't like them. I didn't like those tracks. I just thought they were bloody awful. And then you got Onward and Silent Winds of Freedom, which I think were great tracks. But it was just those two, Arriving UFO and Circus of Heaven, just, and of course Don't Kill the Whale, I think, is on this as well. Yeah, Don't Kill the Whale. Those 3 tracks sort of ruined this album for me. But having said that, when I was doing the, sort of putting the list together for this top 21, got to try and remember it's 21 albums, I started started listening to this album again. And as soon as I put it on, it took me back to 1978 and going to see this tour and listening. On tour they played quite a lot of the tracks from this album as well, and the tour was fantastic. And having to revisit Tormato, I think this is a bloody good album. It's a great album, and It didn't strike me as a good album at the time, but I think it's a fantastic album. And Release is a fantastic track. So Tormato at number 8, and now we're going to get into the really, really cool stuff. And the next one, number 7, is this album. And this is really was one of the introductions to Yes that I had. I bought this before any other Yes album, and I really, really liked it. There's some great stuff on this. So if we just go through the tracks here, no opportunity necessary. I'll say that again in English. No opportunity necessary, no experience needed, which is actually a Richie Havens song. And this has got the theme from the Western movie Big Country. And, you know, that one. I loved that because I was in the cowboy movies when I was a kid. So, and I recognised that instantly, and it sort of just sprung out at me. But you've also got Then and Every Days and Sweet Dreams, which is brilliant. The Prophet, Astral Traveller, which is it's a classic Yes track. But it was the sound and the energy of this that I just absolutely loved. So that one is at, where am I? Number 7. That is number 7. You know, getting some interesting stuff now. Now the one that I think is the one that sort of out the top 5. This could have been in the top 5 at any point, but it's Fragile. I can't find my Fragile vinyl. I've got it somewhere. I can't find it. I probably lent it to someone. But this is Fragile. And Fragile to me was probably the album that cemented my love for Yes. It suddenly hit me that this is a band that I'm really, really into, and I want to go and see them. This was the point. That Fragile album was the point where I just went, I've got to go and see Yes. Because it was just so good. So when you think about that, the what was actually in that album, what was on that album, it starts off with Roundabout, and I don't care what anybody says. I think Roundabout is probably one of the best Yes tracks ever done. Absolutely ever done. If you listen to it now, I listen to this. Jon Anderson has done an album with the Band Geeks, and I remember listening to the Band Geeks doing Roundabout. This is before I even knew that Jon Anderson was going to be using the Band Geeks as a band to do live stuff and also to do an album, which I've also got. Which is I'm going to talk about this on another video, but and I remember seeing Band Geeks do Roundabout. And I just thought, this is a band. The Band Geeks are really great musicians, and I really loved watching it. And it sort of kicked me to go and get my Fragile album out and go and put Roundabout on again. South Side of the Sky's on here. Long Distance Run Around, Heart of the Sunrise. I mean, these are just classic Yes tracks. The only problem is you've also got things like Cans and Brahms, 5% of Nothing, and things like that. And The Fish, I quite like The Fish because I like Chris Squire's bass. I've got a massive soft spot for Chris Squire's bass. But those individual tracks I could probably have done without. I don't really need them. Next on my list, let's see where I am now, is 1971. The Yes album. Again, a absolutely fantastic album, and I think this is really where Yes took off for me. I mean, you just go through this. Yours Is No Disgrace, The Clap, Starship Trooper, I've Seen All Good People, Adventure, Perpetual Change. These tracks have been going in the live show forever. Every time I've seen Yes play live, which is probably 20, maybe more than that, 20 times, they always play those tracks. And the album cover was weird, with the floating head and stuff like that. But just those tracks just make this absolutely amazing. It's an amazing album. It's incredibly recorded. It's got so much drive and energy behind it that you just got to love it. You got to love this album. So that's my number 5. Number 4. Now we get into the serious stuff, and this is going to be all the contentious stuff. Hopefully it's not too contentious. But any of these 4 albums that I'm going to be talking about now, any of these 4 could have been number 1 at any stage. If I'm listening to that, that would have been number 1. And it goes for this as well. And again, this is the contentious one. Tales from Topographic Oceans, I've got a number 4. This could have been number 1 at any time because I absolutely love this album. Again, talking to my mate this morning, who's also a massive, massive Yes fan, he doesn't like this album, and I know why. I understand why people don't like it. There is a split in Yes fans about Tales, and I understand why people maybe don't like it. My mate's attitude towards it is that if they just cut out all the crap and it could have been a great single album, is probably right, and it might have been an even better album for it. But I get immersed in this. I absolutely get immersed in this, and I've loved this album since I bought it. And I bought it for £3.80, which just goes to show how long ago that was. But this, the cover was great, the lyrics are great, the concept's weird, but it's Jon Anderson, so you let him off. And the vocal, the actual lyrics, just I don't know what they mean sometimes, but they sound so bloody good. There's something about Jon Anderson's lyrics that you might not, if you read it, you don't really understand it. When you listen to it, you get a vibe, you get this feeling of something, as if you do understand it, and it all sort of makes sense until you start reading it. And the problem's always been that, I've always been one to sit down on a beanbag with headphones and read the lyrics while I'm listening to the music. But yeah, Tales from Topographic Oceans, absolutely love this album. And yes, you could say there are some filler bits in it, and there probably are, but I listen through the fillers. I listen through it and I just get in the zone and I'm gone. And, what's this going to be? 120 minutes of just immersing yourself in an ocean of yes. That's what that is. So that is my number 4. My number 3, and this was brought out at a time when I was heavily going into gigs, and I went on this tour as well. Going for the one was magic. 1977, I was 17 years old. Really into the band by this. I mean, proper big Yes fan. And Going for the One was bright and breezy, and it's just awesome. Going through the tracks, I'll just take out this inner sleeve here. Right from the beginning of this album, right from the very beginning, from Going for the One, like Going for the One starts, and that guitar comes in, it just blows your mind. It's an absolutely fantastic album. So Going for the One, and when you read all this, you read all the lyrics when you're sitting down on your beanbag with your headphones on, or whatever you do. This just blew my mind. It really did. Like all these albums of this part of the ranking just blew my mind when I listened to them. But Turn of the Century, what a fantastic track that is. Parallels, keyboards in that, Rick Wakeman's keyboards in there. And it's classic Yes lineup. Jon Anderson, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Alan White, and Jon Anderson, Steve Howe, Rick Wakeman, Chris Squire, Alan White. I got them all, yeah. Classic lineup as well, and the tour was absolutely astonishing. It was this tour that I didn't have tickets for to start with, and me and a friend of mine, we said, because they were playing at Wembley at it's not called the Empire Pool anymore, what's it called, the arena, Wembley Arena, and we just went down on the night. We didn't have tickets, went down the night, and we met someone who had 2 tickets for sale at face value, and we bought them. And we looked at the tickets, and they were halfway up the arena. We thought, at least we're going to go and see him. Not near the stage. We're halfway up, which isn't too bad. On the side, not great. And then we got in there. They had a big round stage right in the middle, and we had like the best tickets you could ever imagine. It was just there, right in front of us. So that's what I remember of that tour. But the album is just superb. It's still one of my favourite albums of all time. So, and I've got that at number 3. So, what's number 2 and number 1? You know the albums. If you're a Yes fan, you probably know the albums. So, which one have I chosen for number 2 and number 1? Like a lot of this stuff, it could have been any of the sort of top 4, top 4 or 5. Well, top 4 could have been number 1 at any time. I've chosen number 2 to be Relayer. It could change my mind. It could be number 1 because this album is just the most astonishing piece of music I've ever heard. Well, apart from the number 1. Well, you know what the number 1's going to be. Gates of Delirium. Gates of Delirium, Sound Chaser, To Be Over. Those 3 tracks, they use the same format as Close to the Edge, which is obviously by bloody number 1. But, wow. I mean, and this is what I'm talking about now, Just Dangerous and Patrick Moraz playing keyboards. And I didn't have a problem, and I don't have a problem with Patrick Moraz playing keyboards. Just this album, look at the album cover. It's just a fantastic album cover. You just couldn't get a more beautiful album cover than that. So, Relayer is my number 2, which makes my number 1, of course, Close to the Edge. Close to the Edge, down by the river, round by the corner. This isn't just the best Yes album in this rundown. It's the best prog album. I contentiously can say. I think it's one of the best prog albums that has ever been created. The sound of it, it's perfect all the way through. And again, there's something about Bruford's drums on this that just sublime. That linkage between Bruford and Squire in the rhythm section, it's just something which me in a band, I still strive to get that beautiful balance between the two. And then Rick Wakeman's keyboards. I mean, that keyboard, the church organ in Close to the Edge just coming in. It's like, that's what I'm talking about. Dangerous and surprising and driven. Relayer, Close to the Edge, going for the one, all driven and highly charged and dangerous, and it's just about to fall off the edge. I mean, just the start of Close to the Edge. When I first heard that, which was probably maybe 74, I think, and I heard it around my mate's house. As I said, my mate's brother was a few years older than me. He had all the rock albums and prog albums and things like that. And I remember listening to this round there and listening to the beginning of Close to the Edge, and it was just row. To me, I mean, I was still into things like Mott Bolan and David Bowie and The Sweet and stuff like that, and listen to it, and it's like it was just row. And then one day, after I started getting into Yes and buying some Yes albums, and I bought Close to the Edge, and so it was in my collection, and then started listening to it, and suddenly it all just became clear, and it just became the most amazing music I'd ever heard in my life. And every time I play it now, this is the weird thing, right? Every time I play it now, I recognise it as probably the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Of every single other piece of music, and I've got everything, and I've been into everything. I'm a massive ELP fan, Genesis, Gentle Giant. I love all that stuff. I think this has got to be that just the beginning of Close to the Edge. There's got to be some of the most amazing, mind-blowing, experimental, dangerous, exciting music that I'd ever heard. And if you put it on today, it still feels the same. It still feels dangerous, like they're going to fall off the edge of a cliff at any second, and they don't, because it's brilliant. So that's my top 21. Just quickly go through them again. I have to go through them on my notes here. So we've got Heaven and Earth, Fly From Here. Both of them, I just put them as one album. The Ladder, Open Your Eyes, Talk. Came in at number 17, and number 16 was Quest, The Quest. Number 15 was Mirror to the Sky. Number 14 was 90125. Number 13 was Big Generator. Number 12 was Union. Number 11, Magnification. Number 10, Drama. Number 9, Yes, from 69. Number 8, Tormato. At number 7 was Time and a Word. I'm feeling like Fluff Freeman here. Number 7 was Time and a Word from 1970. Then Fragile from 1971. The Yes album from 71, recorded in autumn of 1970. So remember when Prog first started, so they were right back in the day. And then number 4 was Tales from Topographic Oceans. Number 3, Going for the One. Number 2, Real Air. And number 1, Close to the Edge. So that's my rundown, my ranking of Yes albums. I'd love to know what you think. I know that you're going to disagree with me. I know it. I know. And I can handle it. I can cope. So, but just put your top 21 in, or even just do top 10. Put your top 10 in. Let us know what you think. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel, and well, I'll see you next time. See you later.